All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Ritsema, and we're about to start the Technology Strategies, Budgeting and Planning. I'm here with Brian Abraham, Senior Consultant and VCIO at i3 Business Solutions.
Hi, Mike.
All right, let's get the show on the road. So we do have a fairly extensive agenda, and we want to give some perspective to budget and planning from a business perspective. Then we'll get into more detail and more specific areas to consider as you look at your budget, and then we'll bring it up to a high level and finish with 4 specific ways to move the budget forward. So first, I like to step back and say, what are executives interested in? The managers, the executives, the owners of an organization are interested in business results. So if you're in the IT field and going to be bringing a technology budget forward, then consider these 4 things from an owner's or an executive management perspective. And the first is, when we invest in technology, we want to improve productivity. And because improving productivity will improve profitability. So much or most of technology is oriented towards how can I do things faster and more efficiently. So that's number 1. And number 2 is innovation. If I'm going to spend money on technology, might it make me different than the competition? And I was thinking about an example of that is social media. Everybody has a website, but why do we need social media? So some of us are going to our organizations and saying, we're spending money every month on social media. Why would we do that? I read an article in the Wall Street Journal that there are startups today with no phones. The way they're communicating with their customers is through Facebook chat. That is actually saving them money. And it improves their communication with their end users. So if I'm going to ask for an investment to move beyond just a website and start using other media, what's that going to do for me compared to the competition in the marketplace? How's it going to make me different? That could be a reason for investing in technology. Number 3, certainly profitability is the bottom line. And so again, we invest in technology to improve productivity, be different than the competition, and to improve profitability. Lastly, maybe most importantly, is risk management. And that's in 3 formats. Number 1 is physical. Let's make sure stuff's not going out the back door. Number 2, financial. Let's make sure we don't go all GM or Chrysler bankrupt. But certainly today we're focused on technological risk. Let's make sure that the Bulgarians don't get in. Let's make sure that we're not accidentally transferring $25,000 or $100,000 in an EFT transaction to a vendor that is in China. So these are the areas. This is the reason we invest in technology. So again, still at the high level, at the big picture, is that we are attempting to drive productivity and profitability. At i3, we are cloud biased. 80% of the Fortune 500 companies are on the Microsoft cloud. 60% are using some sort of Google product. There are 1 million government employees using Office 365. Yes, it is safe and secure enough that the government is using it. Find it fascinating that Netflix, no, they don't own all their own infrastructure. They're running on the Amazon Web Services. So cloud biased is interesting in West Michigan, which is a very conservative area where we like to own our stuff, and we don't even want to pay on a loan or a lease. We just want to buy this stuff. But in fact, an operational investment in technology, a cloud technology, serves many purposes for the organization, including technological security and improvement and financial management. Secondly, systems or platform bias. We are biased to the system or the platform. If you are looking for CRM, we are saying, hey, does your ERP, your PSA, your EHR module is there a module for that software that would work? And certainly we want to manage security in a very unified way. So we want to avoid islands of information as much as possible, as much as possible. Let's unify, not create 9 different systems we have to go look at and log in and manage the security of. And then lastly, toward productivity, can I do more with less? You know, the parking lot checkout system fascinates me. To slide that ticket in there and a credit card. I don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty proficient at it. And it actually, I think, is faster to use that technology. These are productivity enhancements, and they're innovative. I think the GUI interface is interesting because we have customers that are running 20 to 25-year-old technology, and they need a GUI interface, don't they? I mean, come on, let's get up to the times. Let's get up to speed with technology. And the answer is no, they don't. Character-based is acceptable if that's the productivity way to get things done. Now, there may be other reasons to be more productive, more efficient by upgrading technology, but I would submit that a GUI interface is not a good reason to spend a bunch of money on technology. So innovation, there's stories we can share there. And then certainly from a risk and security standpoint, do I have protection for my organization? That is good. Can I detect when there's a technological problem? That is better. And do I respond to that technological threat? Then that is the best. PDR, protection, detection, response. I'm going to turn it over to Brian, who will get into a little more detail on some of these areas.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. All right. So a lot of people ask, what should we be spending in our IT budget? What is the average? Well, the average goes across the board. So, here's some Gartner survey data between 1 and 8% of revenue dedicated to IT spend. So obviously, your industry is kind of the primary thing that drives that. If you're a restaurant, you're probably not spending a lot on IT. If you're a bank or professional services firm, medical, IT is probably pretty key to your organization. So why is that? What kind of drives those changes? Well, the quantity and quality of the business applications you're using. Do you have homegrown applications that require a developer on staff? Or are you using kind of out-of-the-box canned product software from a vendor? How you interact with that technology and how much you rely on your vendors. So budgets vary, and it's really up to you to determine how your technology is used inside your business to understand how to allocate that budget. So when you're talking about averages, so average IT spend, $2,770 for small businesses with 19 or fewer employees. Only $700 for large companies. So that's interesting. You see economies of scale there. Why is that? Well, that same ERP system that you had to make a substantial investment for, when you divide that across 500 employees, it's a lot cheaper than when you have to divide it across 20 employees. As Mike said, cloud adoption, very high. So overall cloud adoption common form of moving that IT spend out of corporate budgets and just relying on the technology that's already available to your employees. IT budget increases. So more IT departments are planning budget increases versus maintaining. So that's we're seeing that companies are recognizing the value and importance of IT, and that's coming through in the budgets. So 42% planning increases, 16% status quo, or I'm sorry, 16% cuts, 28% status quo. So how do you get started with your IT planning? The first thing you want to do is kind of assess the environment. So take a look at where things are at today. Are they functioning? Are people able to get their jobs done? And are the systems within capacity? We like to say, you know, in business terms, are the objectives being met? Are people able to do their jobs efficiently? Are the systems limiting what people are able to do? Are the systems already overstressed? We see that in a lot of cases. You know, people have kind of struggled with these systems for a long time, and they're now kind of reaching the breaking point. They're starting to crumble, and it's affecting the business. All right, what should an IT plan include? Well, we like to say you start with your corporate strategy. So a big piece of that is understanding, where is the business headed? Is the business growing? Is it looking to expand? Is it looking to acquire new markets? Or is it in a shrinking industry where you have to control your costs? What's the competitive landscape look like? Do you need to leverage technology to, you know, outpace your competitors in your market? Disaster recovery. A lot of people think about an IT budget being just kind of all that stuff that needs to get replaced. Well, the IT plan and budget should include the disaster recovery plan and the business continuity plan. Aligning those budgets with the corporate goals, equipment replacements, obviously. Reviewing all this, you know, you kind of get that technology plan aligned with business goals. So this is interesting. A ZDNet survey. So what are your priorities for 2015 for budgets? So what do you think of that, Mike? What strikes you on that slide?
Yeah, what strikes me is the second one, improving efficiency and business processes. Yep, definite priority. Number 3, increasing productivity through technology. Brian and I, we did have a conversation about mobile. What is mobile really going to do to improve my business?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a case of where people might not see the value in it, and it depends on your industry. If you have a mobile sales force, you know, the ability for them to generate and deliver a quote on site while they're meeting with a client, that could be, you know, that could be game changing in your industry. What should an IT budget include? Well, all that stuff. Servers, software, applications, switches, firewall, wireless, desktops, laptops, it goes on and on. Basically, you know, all that stuff with cords coming out of it in that back room that nobody likes to look at. In a lot of cases, that's kind of what's keeping the technology running day to day. There are exceptions to that, of course, and you know, cloud is one of the big disruptors of this. In general, most of that equipment, 3 to 5 year expected lifespan. Will it last longer than that? Probably. Does the likelihood of it dying increase? Absolutely. So how do you determine what gets replaced? Start with an inventory and categorize. So what do you have? How old is it? And how important is it? So, you know, we like to talk about recovery when we're planning for continuity and backups. So when you're looking at equipment, you know, kind of thinking through what would happen if this died, what's our recovery strategy, how does that affect the business? So software is a piece that's not always thought of. So your line of business applications, your vendor apps, those have to keep pace with the hardware. So not only those nuts and bolts that are keeping the IT plumbing going, but the applications that are running on them, and understanding, that those need to be supported by the vendor and they need to be current. Determining what is going to remain in-house. So, inside your building, brick and mortar, that application loaded on the server, QuickBooks running on the shared drive versus moving out to the cloud. You might be looking at investments in technology. Maybe it's a new email system. Email system is antiquated. We need a new server. We need new software. Everybody needs new software on their computer. Well, that might be something that you can move straight out to the cloud that no longer is a capital expense. That's going to be an operating expense, and there's no more server migrations in your future. You're going to do it once and you're done. Budget issues. Everybody has a budget for IT, right, Mike?
I'm wrong.
So there's not always budget to get done what needs to get done. So as an IT professional, what I advise other IT professionals or managers is to shine a light on it, bring that decision to management, and help everybody understand what the issues are that you're facing. So what are the risks? What are the considerations and limitations? Maybe that's you're not going to be able to implement that new ERP system.
Yes, exactly. That's our responsibility to a lot of organizations. And it is the responsibility of the IT manager, the IT person in the organization to go to management, the owners, the executives with that risk and say, I am very concerned about this. Brian and I just did a consultation in the Detroit area that went directly to that. The alignment of what the owners perceived as technology risk was at odds with what the technology department saw. It is the responsibility of the technology or part of the organization to expose the risk. It is the prerogative of the owners or the executives to spend the money.
Sometimes we find equipment sitting in the back room that is too old to get maintenance on. You can't support this anymore. Well, you may not be entirely out of luck. We work with third-party vendors to find support for those systems if it can be found. Disaster recovery plan, everybody's favorite. As part of your IT planning, you should be thinking about developing or updating your disaster recovery plan. Is it current? Do we have one? Review the backups, offsite strategy, business continuity. So we're seeing a lot of businesses come to us looking for a disaster recovery plan, not necessarily because they want one, but because they have to have one. And that's either dictated by their clients or their business partners. Your business partners that rely on you to provide products and services need to know that your business is going to continue to operate even if you've got a speed bump. RTO and RPO, those terminology used along backups, so recovery time objective, how long it takes you to get back up and running, recovery point objective, how current does that data need to be? Is the last night's backup okay? Or do we need the data from 20 minutes ago to realistically continue to function? What causes a disaster? Only a fire, flood, or tornado, right?
Wrong.
Yeah, that's pretty low, 5%. Software, so failure to patch firmware, 18%. Human error, nobody makes a mistake. Well, 22% of us do. And hardware failure, 55%. So hardware failure, that's really the easiest thing to protect from with good planning, good backups, current maintenance contracts, hardware that is not antiquated. So you can see, you have control to protect from your largest risk of a data disaster. What about the cloud? Well, when you replace those systems that live or lived in your building with cloud resources, how does that affect your disaster recovery plan? And the answer is, for the most part, you're now covered. You know, those issues that you were trying to protect yourself, excuse me, from before, now are the responsibility of your cloud vendor. So whether that's Microsoft, Google, Amazon, those companies are designed around keeping that data business application operational. They're responsible for the power, they're responsible for the hardware, they're responsible for doing things right. So that responsibility moves beyond your organization and shifts out to the cloud. Additionally, a lot of those expenses, those stuff, capital, things that you have to buy, move out to operating expenses. And for the most part, those expenses are linear based on the size of your business. You have to add 10 new employees next year, your IT operating expenses are going to go up, you know, proportionally. You need to control costs and shrink the operation. You know, you're removing 10 accounts from that cloud system, your bill's going to go down similarly. It's all about those apps, as Mike likes to call them, information assets. So you want to go into this, Mike?
Well, it's the same message, and that is that how does work get done in an organization? Again, if I'm in technology, you know, I'm all about the firewall, the switch, the servers, the storage, and the answer is no. Very little of that matters. The intellectual property, the assets lie right in the business productivity applications. That's what I care about. I get up in the morning, I want to get to my stuff, and that is the applications. Yes, that includes email. I just want to get to my stuff and get work done.
Absolutely. And that translates to me as you need a reliable server with gigabit switch, redundant firewall, and power protection, but, you know, Mike just wants to run that business, so
yeah,
that's all right.
I want to spend as little as possible to get work done. So that's a good segue coming from DR and getting work done, because ironically, can you believe it's possible? And I apologize for some choppiness earlier at about 11:06 to 11:09. And so I ask you, do you have redundant internet at your organization? If you have redundant internet, how quickly can you transfer over to the backup internet? Then I come to you in my IT budget and I say, I want to spend an extra $500 to $1,000 a month on redundant internet. And if I'm you, if I'm an owner, I'm saying, why? Why would I do that? I haven't had problems with internet. Well, again, we had a problem at 11:06 today, and the system automatically switched over to our backup. And right in the middle of this webinar, what are the odds of that? Apparently pretty high. So therefore, redundant internet. You know, if I come to you and say, I'm the IT guy, and I say, hey, I'd like to spend $5,000 to $15,000 on a DR plan. I don't think so. But like Brian said, if I have customers that are demanding that of me, and secondly, if I look at my organization and say, if the whole thing went down for 3-4 days, what would that do to my organization? These are the reasons that we invest in technology. So, you know, we're back to similar stuff, and that is focus on business results. Let's make sure that the technology aligns to the 1 year, the operational plan, the 3 to 5 year strategic plan. We want to have that dialogue. What are the priorities toward the business results? Innovate to stay ahead of the market and the competition. Again, I had just great entertainment. It was technological entertainment for me using Uber down in, or Uber, whatever it is, down in Orlando. And so watching that cab move towards our location, and the app popping up and saying your Prius with Xander driving it has arrived. I looked up, there was a red Prius. I waved my hand, he pulled up. I mean, the innovation is staggering, and that ability to stay ahead of the competition is amazing. Hotels in an Airbnb world, Hyatt International, Airbnb has a higher valuation than any hotel chain in the world. That is a dramatic change in innovation in the world. That even my attorney's wife is monetizing rooms in their home. I think as much for just the sheer entertainment of it as anything. The world is changing. Innovation. How are you staying ahead of your competition? What can technology bring to business results to be different than the competition? Protect the business results. Remember Hurricane Katrina. Are you aware of the impact that the breach at Target stores had on the profitability of that organization? Embrace the cloud, toward operational expenses. There are real costs in maintaining servers, storage, power, internet, and to move that out to the cloud is something to be considered. And then again, no islands of information, integrate technology, stay within the systems or platforms. Those are recommendations from our perspective. I'll turn it back to Brian for planning and steps.
All right, so what's next? Well, assess the state of the current technology. Where are we at? What do we got? How old is this stuff? Is it working? Where are our risks today, and where do we need to invest? Align with business priorities. So what does the business need from an IT perspective? How can technology help our organization? How is it hindering our organization today? Aligning that with an operational and strategic plan. Choose the technology that you're investing in. Prioritize. Find those high-risk items. Find the 10-year-old ERP system that whose vendor is now out of business. That's leaving you in a vulnerable situation. Get the quotes, review the options, and deploy. And then we're done, right? We did this once. We're all set.
Regretfully, no. And the end of the year's coming, and I imagine you're going to want more money from us.
It happens.
Yes, every year.
Yep. Wash, rinse, repeat. So it's not a one-time thing. Last year's plan might not work for this year or for next year. You might be going a different direction with the company. Some of the stuff, most of it's probably the same, but there's probably going to be a few things on there that aren't. And make room for keeping the lights on, making those lights brighter, and then innovating. So what's next? What is going to give you the step ahead with the competition?
Very good. Well, that's a wrap on this webinar on technology budgeting. If there's any questions, we'll take them. And otherwise, I think we're on schedule with 1.5 minutes to go here. We'll watch both dialog boxes for questions. Here's a question on kind of the format of the technology budget. How's it put together? Are there forms or anything like that, Brian? Is it an Excel spreadsheet? Is it just a Word document?
So it's it's a little bit of everything. For all the stuff, the nuts and bolts, the servers and switches and firewalls. I like to do that in a spreadsheet is fine. Purchase date, warranty contracts, assembling all that information. Really, it's part of a disaster recovery plan too, but it helps you understand how old it was when it was purchased, when the warranty is going to be expiring, and what your options are. Beyond that, your business applications. What a lot of people don't have is a list of all their applications. So what are all these systems that enable our business to work? And are all those current? Are they supported? Are there different integrations that we should be looking at? Are these, are we using a clunky system just because it's always existed? So, yeah, getting those down on paper and looking at them is really the first step.
Great. All right, we're here, we're available. You're welcome to call us directly, email, and we thank you for taking the time to join us for Technology Budgeting 2016.